Our featured guest tonight is a founding member of one of the greatest bands of his era. His band Loverboy went on to sell over 10 million records with songs that have stayed in the public consciousness for decades, with songs like Working for the Weekend, Heaven in Your Eyes from the Top Gun soundtrack, and so many more. Here to chat about the band, music history, his own fascinating projects, and Loverboy's upcoming tour is their very own Doug Johnson. Doug, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So most of us know you and your music, but I'd love to know a little bit more about your background. Where did you grow up?
So I'm a Canadian, as we all are. Actually, Matt, I think, just got his green card, and he might be applying for U.S. citizenship. And I grew up in what is commonly referred to as the Pacific Northwest, up near Seattle. So just over the border is a beautiful city called Vancouver, and I live in a suburb of Vancouver, and that's kind of where I grew up. So some 64 years ago, I came into the world and spent the better part of my early years up until I was 20. And then I moved up to another Canadian city, probably 600 miles north of here, called Calgary. And that was in between my second year of college and what ultimately became my musical career. I needed to make some more money to pay for my college at the subsequent year 3 and 4. And so I got a job in Calgary and ended up running into Paul and Mike, because I was playing in some local bands there. And then we put the nucleus of the band together basically at that time. So yeah, so I'm a Canadian West Coast dude, and I love living here. It's a beautiful city, beautiful place to be.
So was music a big part of your life or your home life growing up?
Yeah, so my mother played piano, and we had a big old upright piano in the house that weighed about 2 tons, massive cast iron back, soundboard on the back. I remember when we moved it in, it actually, the two work guys, the two moving guys were moving it into the house, and they hit a patch of soft soil, and the whole thing started to sink into the ground. And my mom started crying and running around, and they rescued this poor piano. But anyways, set it up. My mom would play, and I get up there beside her on the bench, and I kind of mimic what she was doing. And she thought, oh, that's kind of interesting. He seems to have some bit of rhythmic aptitude. So went off and took lessons. I started taking piano lessons at the age of 4. And then I completed my classical degree at the age of 18. And so that was all of the, everything from Bach through Chopin, Debussy, all that kind of classical music. I got very well acquainted with all of that kind of Western European music. And then I took some jazz lessons too for a while. And I played clarinet in high school, and then I started playing saxophone for the band, actually, because it was essentially the same fingering from moving from clarinet to saxophone. And then I figured out how to play the harmonica. So yeah, I wear a lot of hats in the band now. So, but my basic core education was definitely classical.
When did the performing bug hit you? Obviously the music bug hit you early. Was there a point in time where you went, this is, I want to be in front of audiences. This is what I want to do?
Yeah, I think the turning point for myself, and probably a lot of fellow musicians of my vintage, if you will, is that seminal night on Ed Sullivan when the Beatles played their first show in North America, and it was televised. And I remember watching that and going, oh my God, what a great job that would be. Just singing those great songs and all the girls
screaming. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So, I think it was all of 7 or 8 years old, and that stayed with me. And, as you go through life in your teenage years and so on, and you're learning the whole way about your craft and music and so on. You sort of still have those aspirations and fantasies of what it might be like to be an entertainer, and just very sort of haphazardly and through no real plan of my own, the universe conspired to put me together with 4 other guys to create the band Loverboy. So you just never know where your paths are going to lead, you know?
Well, let's talk about Loverboy. When you guys started out, was there kind of a design or plan to go in a particular direction and try to get into, the music culture the way you did, or were you guys just trying to get local work? I mean, how did that come together? Some bands, they have, the blinders on, you know what I mean? And other ones, they get discovered and then, how did that work for you guys?
Well, I think it was Paul had a lot of experience. He's 12 years older than me, so I'm 64, just turned 64, and so coming into this, he was definitely had seniority in terms of experience, and he had a vision of what the band should be like musically. I came along and added in my influences all throughout the songwriting process. Excuse me. And then him and I worked together for a couple of months, and then Mike came into the scene, and of course with his voice, we just went, oh wow, this just moved the goalposts again. So we started writing for that, and I came from kind of the prog rock, more keyboard oriented stuff. Obviously, Paul came from the Jimi Hendrix school of heavy guitar, and so the two of our influences came together to mesh into this sort of unique sort of keyboard versus guitar thing. We're each trying to find our place within the song, and then of course Mike's vocal delivering the message of the song. That's kind of how the sound, I think, evolved, and it evolved over a period of about 1978 when we first started woodshedding in Calgary, working on songs. Then we got a management deal from Bruce Allen, who manages Michael Bublé and Bryan Adams, a couple other bands I can't remember, but anyway, so he asked us to move back to Vancouver for me, anyways, and it was great because I was coming back home, and we signed a deal with him, and he found a place for us to continue writing, and we got a call. Would have been November 26th, I think it was, of 1979. Our manager asked us if we wanted to be the opening act for Kiss. We had never, ever played publicly before, like nowhere, not a birthday, bar mitzvah, nothing. So all we were was just like writing in a warehouse and on gear that was kind of just thrown together. So, excuse me, we said yes. And, what the heck? It was a great way to get our music in front of a whole bunch of people to test it out. And it actually went over surprisingly well, considering the fanaticism of the Kiss army. I think we managed to get through about 6 songs and kind of got our point across. And then it was time to leave. You don't want to wear it your welcome with the Kiss fans. So that was quite an experience that shaped and informed kind of how we were going to be as a live band, and it was a great lesson. And then to stick around after the show and watch, of course, their show, which was this is massive, Cirque du Soleil-ish kind of everything's nothing, never a dull moment kind of thing going on, and so it was inspiring too.
Well, when I was, I think, 11 and 12, I was Ace Frehley 2 Halloweens in a row. So I know what you're talking about. So what do you remember about actually standing on that stage? I mean, or maybe some backstage moments from the show. I feel like those are the types of things that those memories would be kind of seared into your brain.
Yeah, I can remember just before going on stage and the lights went down. And you're like, okay, this is it. This is the big moment. Let's get up there and do our thing. And I think we started off with Turn Me Loose. And so I'm holding that chord down and I'm not getting any sound. And I'm going, okay, what's going on here? This is terrible. This is embarrassing. Let's get going here. And it turned out that my volume pedal had not been engaged. But I was like, so distracted by the immensity of the proportions of this experience that I was not paying attention to the minutiae that was normally just in my muscle memory. Anyways, figured it out, proceeded with the song, and it was good. And after the show, we all came back and we were all like high-fiving, going, "Wow, that was amazing, man! That was so cool!" And we all stood up there. We did our thing. Nobody freaked out. It's like, yeah, good.
Well,
So,
and part of it is you're just trying not to make any mistakes. I had the opportunity to speak with Geddy Lee of Rush at one point, and he was telling me that, Alex can pay attention to, like, he'll see things like 16, 17 rows. He can read a sign like 17 rows out while he's playing, and then come back later and go, "Oh, did you see the sign that said such and such?" Meanwhile, Geddy's like, "I'm trying not to trip over a chord. I'm trying not to, I'm trying to hit every note. I'm trying not to screw up." So
I know,
even though you got muscle memory,
it is. And
you
so,
still want to,
you want to respond, and you want to do it in a graceful, respectful way to when people, because there's love coming from them to you, and it needs to be acknowledged. And I totally get what he's saying.